Okay, so hopefully everyone can see this screen then. This is the short webinar introducing the latest version of Petrosys PRO, which is 2019.2. And the intention of this webinar is to introduce you to three highlight features that we released as part of this release here. And it's really just to show you where they are, give you a bit of interest in them, show you roughly how they work, and then what we will do over the next few weeks is we will arrange more specific webinars on those features to go a bit more in depth, show you how they work, show you all of the buttons, and really get you using those tools effectively. So we'll start with a couple of slides. I'm just going to introduce what we've done in 2019 too. I'll then give an overview, a quick overview of the highlight features, and then we'll go into a 10-15 minute demo showing you those features. And then there'll be time at the end for any questions. So if you've been to any of our user group meetings globally over the last few weeks, you may have seen this slide. It's just a slide to show you the Pro release schedule over the last couple of years, just to show you where 2019.2 fits in. I thought I would show this at this webinar. So 2019.2 sits here, released on time in September, and we have the intention to release one more major version in the 2019 series, Q4 later this year, before we then move on to our Pro 2020 version, where we'll start to look at cross-sections. So for this release then, there's 48 individual enhancements into 2019.2, and that takes the total for the 2019 series up to 159. So compared to the 2018 version, there's a significant number of enhancements ranging from major functionality developments through to minor requests as well as bug fixes as well. So a lot of additional value in the software over the last few months. The main focus for this version for 2019.2 has been well-related enhancements. We particularly worked with a couple of production teams to produce some improvements that they needed, and I'll show you those in the next slide. And as I mentioned, 2019.3 is due to be released before the end of 2019, and the functionality that we're going to release in that hasn't been fixed yet. So it's, as always with Petrosys, it's always a good time to talk to us. If there's things that you see in this version you think can be improved, then tell us about them. If there's things that we're not doing that you think that would really work for you as a pro user, then please get in touch. We really do need your input to guide us for these releases. And as I said, everything for 2019.3 has not been locked in yet, so there is still time if there's stuff you want to see in there. Talk to us and we'll see what we can do. Okay, the highlight features for 2019.2 then. The first is the log signature maps, and this is something that clients have been asking us about for a while, and so we were very glad to be able to push this through. And this follows the log exchange support that we did in 2019.1. So we can now display these logs on our maps, and I'll show you that in the demo. Second thing is the well path improvements, and this was done working with a production team where they pointed us to the fact that they needed to have well path segments that intersected horizons multiple times. So if you have a horizontal well path and it's going in and out of a reservoir zone, you need to be able to display those multiple intersections. And that's something that previous versions of Petrosys has really struggled with. And so we've developed the ability to do that now. And so for those of you that are familiar with the paths tab, you see it's now split into the full paths versus the path segments. And I'll explain how that works in the demo. And finally, Raster to vector capability has been added. So if you're particularly at exploration, if you get some raster images and you need to extract the shapes from them, might be the contours, it might be seismic navigation, whatever it might be, we have the ability to do that now. It's the first release, so we're very keen to get your feedback on this. It's something that we think we can probably improve with enough data sets and enough testing, but it's certainly a really powerful feature, and I'll show you how that works again in the demonstration. So That's the short PowerPoint's over. Let me jump into the software and show you where these things actually reside in the software. So I'm going to start with the log signature maps. So to do that, I've got some Petrel data here, so I'm just going to get that into my Petrosys map. So as always, we just drag and drop our wells into the map, and that's them appearing here. And the way to do the log signature mapping is to double click on the wells. And what you'll notice if I drag this into the middle is that there's now a new tab at the end there that says log signature, and this is where we do all of the log signature mapping from. So we just need to toggle on the log signatures. We need to add a curve class, which is essentially telling Petrosys what curves you want to display. In this case, I'm going to display the gamma ray. It's in the GULFX folder. It's this one here. You can add multiple logs to the same curve, so if your gamma ray has different nomenclature, you can add several gamma ray logs. I'm just going to add this one here just now. And when you add that, you then get the ability to create a style for that log. And you can save and reuse templates, and the more specific webinar on this will go more in depth into those templates. For just now, I'm just going to modify this layout, show you how that works. So in here, we can do things like add formation tops. I'll just add those with a single color, so the formation tops will appear like this. If you want to rearrange your tracks, you can easily just drag and drop. So we can have the depth down here or put the depth back here. We can double click to edit these headers. So I can edit the range. I can add fill styles, for example. So let me just add some sort of fill style here. So we can set up the templates as we need for our mapping display. Once we've done that, we can then better refine the actual display itself. So for example, we can add some text. Maybe we want to add the name of the well to our well logs, so we can easily add that. And then once I've done that, I can just click apply and see what this looks like. And we can see we've now got some logs displayed here. Now if I zoom in on one of these logs, I'll zoom in on this one here. It looks okay, but there's a lot of empty space here, so now I can use the bottom half of the panel to better refine what it is I'm displaying. So for example, let me choose true vertical depth that I want to display, and rather than limiting the depth to the top and bottom hole of the actual well, let me limit it based on the zones of interest. So in this case, I want to display from the zone top turbot to the top of the nest, and I'll maybe just stick in 5 meters of buffer above and below that zone. I can choose the posting location, whether it's surface or if I want to post it down further down the well path itself, and I can also adjust the size and offset as well. So at the moment, every 50 millimeters represents 1,000 meter of the log. I'm only going to choose 100, so 50 millimeters represents 100 meters. And if I click OK to this, then we should see we have something a bit more specific to this log. So you can see we now just have the top turbot section, so turbot down to nest, so we have the turbot formation in here. Something else you can do with the logs is also use our over post correction feature. So at the moment this is just displaying at the top hole location. If I right click, I can choose over post correction log signature. And I'll just drag this into a better location. So let's put this up here. We can also do things like align the logs as well, and you can hide individual logs. So if you're used to using the over post correction feature for text, it's very similar to that. And I'll also just move some of these labels while I'm at it as well, just being a bit pedantic, but just to get those out the way. So I'll move this label up here. I'll move this one out of the way as well. And I'm going to move this C7 label here. So that's the log signature maps. Like I said, it's just a very quick overview to show you where they are. If you want to display some wells with logs, jump to that final tab. As I mentioned, log signatures. and then from there you'll be able to better refine the actual display itself. Okay, the next thing I'm going to move on to then is the well paths. So if I take this C7 well, for example, we've just got the full path shown in green here. Now if I click on the Paths tab, and I bring this screen over a little bit, you'll notice that the Paths tab has now changed. It's split into the full well path as well as path segments. Now the full well path at the moment is based on the Petrel well colour. I'm just going to change that to a fixed colour, and I'll just make it black. So we've got just fully black well paths being displayed. However, these log signature maps represent the tarbit formation, so I want to highlight exactly where that is on this this well track here. So to do that, I'll toggle on the well path segments, and there's an icon here at the top to add all well paths, all segments, sorry, to the well path segment section. So I can add all of my available zones. So let me just add all of those. Click OK, and those will now appear down here. And if I click apply, we should see something change over here. So we've now got the those individual segments for each of my my zone top and bases. And if I pause just to let the screen refresh there, you may be able to see this sort of green colour into pink colour. So we can see we've got the Ness formation, the Cretaceous, as well as the tarbit in here. Now I can make bulk changes to this. So if I click on this top icon here, and I just change the thickness of the first path here, let's make it say an absolute thickness of 5 millimeters. Click OK. That will change each of the styles, so I don't need to do that individually. It does that automatically for me. And if I click apply, we'll just see what that looks like on the map. And there you are, we can see those path segments there. Now, to display this just for the tarbit then, I can highlight all of these. I'm going to toggle off just the tarbit on its own, and I'll get rid of those ones. And then I can display this this one on its own. So click OK. So now we've highlighted on the path exactly where this this log signature map occurs for. And if I zoom out as well, you can see for other well paths over here, it's doing the exact same thing, showing me where the tarbit actually occurs spatially. Now, the reason this was developed, as I mentioned, was for multiple intersections. I didn't have a data set I could show you that had multiple intersections. So what I did was I just created a PDF of some data that we had. I've removed all the location information though. And if I zoom in here, you can see, oops, gone the wrong way. You can see that we have the multiple path intersections here. And if I bring up the screenshot of the tab that I used, and I'll just slow down to let that refresh, you'll see that in this case we just toggled on the B zone, gave it a particular style, and that B zone is then repeated several times as the well intersects in and out of that reservoir zone. And if I had toggled on other paths, those would then be displayed there as well. So just to let you know, we do handle those multiple intersections now. If you're in a production team and you're trying to show where the well trajectory is going through the reservoir, we handle all of that now in the new version. Okay, that's enough talk about wells then. Let me finish with the raster image to vector option. So I'm going to toggle off my grid and my wells, and I'm going to toggle on a raster image. I just took this from the USGS website, just took a screenshot of their website, so I had a nice raster image, and I thought I would show you how we would go about creating vector formats out of this this file. So to do it then, we right click on the georeferenced image and you select edit, and it launches the Spatial Editor. So it's all done within the spatial editing tool, and under operations you'll see there's a new extract shapes from raster option. And when you click this, you get a panel that looks like this. There's some items up the top, some tabs up the top where you're trying to tell Petrosys a bit more about what it is you're trying to get out of this image. And then there's some viewing options down the bottom where we can view the actual image. We can view information before we process the image. We can view view the outputs in this part as well. And so really what we have to do then is tell Petrosys what we're interested in, because we could pick out these coastline features, for example. We could pick out the grid lines over here. We could pick out the text if we really wanted to. In this case, I want to pick out these seismic lines. So what I need to do then is tell Petrosys that it's these seismic lines that I'm interested in. So I'm going to zoom into them. And the first thing I'm going to do is add in this pre-processing option a color filter. And I'll add that color filter, and I get this little dropper here. So I'm going to take that and drop it onto this orange color here. And then I'll zoom back out, and I'm going to toggle on the pre-processed option. Now at the moment nothing is, or very little is actually being displayed because I've not set any tolerance. So I'm saying to Petrosys I only want to select anything that's exactly that color. Now in reality, when you zoom into these images, the actual colors are slightly different. So you might want to just give it a little bit of tolerance so that it's finding colors that are similar but not identical to that orange color. And you can see it's now picking out those colors quite nicely. I'll skip over the shape extraction, that's fine. I'm going to go to the shape post-processing, and I'm going to say I want it to convert any polygons that it finds. So it might create polygons around these points here. Just want to convert those into actual lines, and that's all fine. Click on output. Now I can create new layers here. I can create full layers, so I can create shape files or Excel files or Petrosys files of these images. In this case here, I'm just going to create a temporary file. I'll just call this my seismic lines, and it's line data. That's all fine. Click output, so I'm expecting something like this. Click apply, and I've got 280 lines that have been created. That's fine. I'll click out of that, close it down, and there we go. It's created these lines, and like I said, these could be shape files or something similar. Now that looks okay, but it's got these gaps in between the lines, so I'm going to need to go back and improve the actual operation that I just did there. So the reason for these lines is that we have these black dots in between. So it basically stops at these black dots, which is not exactly what I'm looking for. So there's another option if I add another color filter, and I'll just toggle off the one that I've just done and start with this new one. Rather than deselecting any colors that are not matched, what I could do is I could replace the colors with a different color. So there's again a further option we can use here, and I'm going to say anytime you find black, I actually want you to include that as an orange color. And again, I'll just give it a bit of tolerance. Let's look at the pre-processed option. So there we go. You can see without that new one there, it would just skip over the black points. If I toggle both of these on, it's now going to turn them into these sort of red colours. And that looks pretty good. However, still some problems because there's some gaps between these lines. So I'm going to add another option called morphology. And I'll just use that to thicken the foreground in here as well. So hopefully you can see now without the morphology, it's got these gaps. If I thicken that foreground, it will thicken these lines a bit for me. So in these sort of 5-10 minutes webinars, I'm not going to be able to teach you everything about this, but just to point out there's lots of extra features in here allowing you to tell Petrosys exactly what it is you're looking for. And if we click apply to this, it's now created some more lines. And I'll go back to my seismic lines, and we'll see we've now got these nice long seismic lines. And if I toggle back on the georeference image, you'll see that it traces the outline of these lines pretty well, which is good to see. The last thing just to point out is that because we did some extra processing, it's also picked up extra text. It's very easy in the editor just to highlight these and delete the stuff you don't need. Much more easy to delete stuff you don't need than digitize stuff you do need. And so hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour for what that tool does. Like I said, if you've got a georeferenced image, open it up inside the editor, choose the operations, extract shapes from raster, and then play about with some of those options to try and tell Petrosys exactly what it is that you're trying to get out of that image. And hopefully you'll have fun with that. Like I said, we'll run a more specific webinar on it in due course to go into some of the other options as well. Okay, well, thanks very much for listening to all this. If you have any questions, I'm going to unmute everyone now, and I'll be happy to take those. Thanks again.